The atmosphere inside Revelation Church in Los Angeles was alive with anticipation. Music filled the sanctuary, worshipers were unified in spirit, and the energy was electric, just another Sunday where the congregation gathered expecting inspiration and hope. Pastor Lovy Elias, a figure celebrated for his dynamic preaching and prophetic insight, stood at the pulpit, radiating the same enthusiasm and spiritual authority that had drawn crowds from all over the world. His words, as always, commanded attention. People leaned in, eager to absorb every syllable, trusting that this service would be as powerful as any before. Suddenly, something shifted. Those in attendance noticed a change in Pastor Lovy's delivery. His normally vibrant voice began to falter, his speech slowed, and his posture became uncertain. At first, some thought he might be making a dramatic pause to reinforce an important message, a tactic he often used to emphasize spiritual truths. But the pause lingered, and concern rippled through the front rows. A few congregants gasped, sensing that this was not part of the sermon. Pastor Lovy's hand gripped the pulpit more tightly, his voice nearly a whisper. In mere seconds, the mood of the room transformed from festive to anxious. Members of his pastoral team and ushers rushed to the stage, their movements urgent but careful. The choir, still playing softly, sensed the gravity of the moment and lowered their volume. Confusion and fear swept through the crowd. Some worshipers began to pray aloud, voices trembling with emotion, while others remained frozen in their seats, tears streaming down their faces. The sanctuary, once brimming with joy and celebration, grew heavy with worry. The scene soon became even more surreal. Pastor Lovy, visibly weakened, leaned back and was gently supported by those around him. Mobile phones appeared, recording the developing crisis. Within moments, these clips would make their way to social media, accompanied by urgent messages calling for prayer and support. The event was no longer confined to the church. Within minutes, the entire online Christian community was aware that something extraordinary and frightening had occurred. Remarkably, panic did not take over. Instead, the congregation responded in unison with prayer. Hundreds of hands shot up, voices rose, and the sanctuary was filled with a collective cry to God for healing and protection. The vulnerability of their beloved leader exposed something profound. No matter how strong or spiritually gifted someone may appear, moments like this remind everyone of our shared humanity. Pastor Lovy, who had prayed for countless others and inspired faith in so many, now needed prayer himself. Some church members later revealed that Pastor Lovy had shown signs of fatigue in the days leading up to his health crisis. His sermons had been shorter, he'd occasionally chosen to sit during lengthy stretches, and he relied more heavily on his team during services. While these details didn't necessarily point to a specific problem, they suggested a buildup of exhaustion, perhaps a warning that the demands of ministry were beginning to take a toll. As the sanctuary became a place of desperate prayer, the leadership team acted swiftly. They formed a protective circle around Pastor Lovy, escorting him to a private room. Medical help was summoned immediately, though specifics about his condition remained undisclosed for the time being. His wife, prophetess Maggie, was seen among the group, her expression reflecting both unwavering faith and deep concern. For the next 20 minutes, the church waited in a tense silence, punctuated only by the prayers of the congregation and occasional updates from leaders on stage. Some worshipers quoted scriptures about healing and strength, drawing comfort from their faith. The experience was a living testament to the belief that, in moments of crisis, faith is not just spoken but put into action. Outside the church, the story was already spreading. Videos recorded on cell phones were uploaded to Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Hashtags calling for prayer circulated rapidly, and messages of support poured in from around the world. People who had never attended Revelation Church sent words of encouragement and solidarity, demonstrating just how interconnected the global faith community had become. However, not all reactions were supportive. Alongside the flood of prayers and encouragement, criticism emerged. Some online voices questioned whether the pressures of leading a large ministry might be too much for any one person to bear. They debated whether the relentless schedules, public expectations, and emotional demands placed on pastors were sustainable. For these critics, Pastor Lovy's health scare wasn't just a personal issue, it was evidence of a larger problem within the modern church. Back inside Revelation Church, the focus remained on prayer and hope. When the service finally drew to a close, leaders assured the congregation that Pastor Lovy was receiving care and urged everyone to continue praying for his recovery. Details about his condition were scarce, but the sight of members embracing, wiping away tears and leaving the building quietly spoke volumes about the impact of the day. This incident, however, was more than just a dramatic event in the life of one church. It became a moment of truth for the entire community, a reminder that faith must be rooted in something deeper than the personality of a single leader. The congregation demonstrated that their devotion was to God and to one another, not just to the man at the front of the sanctuary. Lingering questions remained. Was this a one-time health scare, or did it point to deeper issues behind the scenes? Was Pastor Lovy suffering from exhaustion, stress, or something more serious? The speculation continued, both within the church and across social media, as people tried to make sense of what had happened. As the days passed, a broader conversation emerged. What had caused Pastor Lovy's sudden health emergency? Out of respect for his privacy, church leaders withheld specific medical information. Still, the speculation grew. Many pointed to the relentless pace of Pastor Lovy's life, leading services, hosting events, counseling, traveling, and managing a massive online following. The demands were enormous, and even the strongest individuals could be worn down by such a schedule. Medical experts have long warned that exhaustion and stress can lead to sudden health issues, ranging from dizziness and fainting to much more serious conditions. Beyond the physical toll, the emotional and spiritual weight of leadership is immense. Pastors are not just speakers, they are caretakers of their congregation's deepest struggles, marital problems, financial hardships, grief, sickness, and more. They absorb these stories daily, always trying to remain strong for others, but such an invisible load can eventually impact their well-being. The pressure is even greater for those in prophetic and deliverance ministries, like Pastor Lovy. Constantly being on call for others, offering counsel and encouragement can be draining. Combined with the physical demands of preaching and leading worship, often on little sleep and irregular meals, the risk of burnout is real. Some critics argued that the culture of celebrity pastors contributes to these crises. When a spiritual leader becomes the focal point for thousands, the expectation to always be available and strong becomes nearly impossible to fulfill. No matter how gifted, pastors are still human and subject to the same limitations as anyone else. Insiders had noticed signs of fatigue in Pastor Lovy in the weeks before the incident. Shorter sermons, moments spent sitting instead of standing, and increased reliance on the leadership team all pointed to mounting pressure. These details, while not conclusive, suggested that something had been building behind the scenes. The aftermath of Pastor Lovy's health emergency sparked a vital debate. How can churches better care for their leaders? Is it time to rethink the expectations placed on pastors, especially in an era of constant live streaming, viral moments, and global audiences? Some argued that the very platforms that help spread a pastor's message also contribute to their exhaustion. The public reaction was immediate and passionate. Social media became a battleground of opinions. Supporters posted prayers, Bible verses, and encouragement, framing the moment as a call to intercede on behalf of their leader. Hashtags rallied the faithful, and videos of congregants praying and singing during the emergency became powerful symbols of faith under pressure. Yet the story didn't end with support alone. Critics seized on the event, questioning the authenticity of modern-day prophets and the sustainability of high-pressure ministry. Some asked why a pastor who preached healing and deliverance could be struck by a sudden health crisis. Skeptical voices wondered whether the incident was a sign of deeper problems within the church. News outlets picked up the story, with headlines ranging from sympathetic to sensational. Some compared Pastor Lovy's scare to similar incidents involving other prominent church leaders, suggesting it was part of a broader pattern. The narrative expanded beyond one man's experience to a conversation about the health and well-being of pastors everywhere. Other church leaders weighed in, offering both support and critique. Some shared prayers and urged self-care, while others criticized the celebrity culture that places undue pressure on pastors. Debates erupted online about whether the demands placed on spiritual leaders are fair or sustainable. As clips of Pastor Lovy's health scare circulated, conspiracy theories emerged. Some speculated that the incident was staged to garner sympathy or attention. While there was no evidence for these claims, their spread highlighted the deep divisions in how people view prominent figures in ministry. Supporters dismissed these theories, critics pointed to them as signs of manipulation. The conversation reached audiences outside the usual faith circles. People who didn't follow Pastor Lovy still engaged, debating larger questions about vulnerability, credibility, and the public sharing of health struggles among spiritual leaders. The incident forced many to confront the reality that spiritual giants face the same battles as anyone else. Ultimately, Pastor Lovy's health crisis exposed more than just individual fragility. It brought to light the challenges faced by leaders in the modern church, the pressures, the expectations, and the need for greater support. It reminded everyone that beneath the titles and public personas, spiritual leaders are human beings who need care, rest, and understanding. The event became a catalyst for reflection, not just about one pastor's journey, but about the future of church leadership itself.